Hello, dear students. I am Dr. Mahesh Naik, Assistant Professor of English. And in this video, we are looking at some of the question-related aspects of the short story, The Open Window. And this is class 5, and this is the last class of this short story, The Open Window. And as we know that this is written by H.H. Munro, whose pen name is Saki. Yeah, class 5, the open window, continuation of class 4. And in the last class, my dear students, we learned how to analyze the characters in the story in brief, whereas we looked at two characters, Frampton Nuttall and Vera. In the same way as we discussed or analyzed the two characters, I think you will analyze the remaining characters if you are asked to write a brief note on other characters in your exams or tests. Right, my dear students? So what are the objectives of this particular class or session or video? The first one is to make the students know different types of questions on the story. So you will be knowing in this video, in the other remaining slides, the different types of questions. And along with that, we have another objective to enable the students to write answers for long answer questions. So here we will be discussing one long answer question to write, how to write long answer questions. That means essay type answers or long answers. Okay, types of questions. Here in this slide, we are looking at one more question. Just three examples are taken here. And in the same manner, you can frame yourselves as many as possible one more questions from the short story. Right, the first question is, who is Vera? Who is Vera? Very simple. And the answer is niece of Mrs. Sapleton. Niece of Mrs. Sapleton. And the second question, how old is Vera? Answer is 15 years. Vera is 15 years old. And why does Mr. Frampton visit the Sapletons? And the answer is to get his neurotic problem cured. My dear students, these are three examples for one mark questions. And as I just told you, you go through the text, you go through the story, and you just guess some of such one mark questions and even write answers for those questions. I hope you got some idea about how one mark questions generally are. And short answer questions. We also say that short notes are brief notes. You may be asked in your exam or test, write a short note on, yeah, like this Frampton Nuttall or Vera, or the tragedy of the aunt's family, or Mrs. Sapleton, or the neurotic problem of Mr. Nuttall. So in this manner, you can be asked any questions to write a short note. And as I just told you in the last class, that is class 4, we looked at the writing a short note or character sketch on Frampton Nuttall and Vera. You just remember or go through that video class and get an idea of how to write short notes on particular topic or question or person in the story. Here we have one long answer question. Uh, yes, the question reads like this. Explain the role of Vera in building up tension for Frampton Nuttall. So this is a okay, probable long answer question. And for this particular question, we can add these details. And you also can add other details if we have missed any particular detail in this slide. Right, my dear students, we know that Vera receives Mr. Nuttall in the absence of Mrs. Sapleton when Mr. Nuttall arrives. Vera is the person who is there in that home, and she receives, she greets him. And of course, she continues talking with him, she converses with him, and she confirms that he does not know anybody there in that particular rural area. Vera, in her conversation with Mr. Nuttall, she gathers the information that he doesn't know anybody there. Even if he knows anybody, that is Mrs. Appleton, he knows only her name and address, and nothing but that. So Vera is very clear of this aspect. Okay, and she tells about the tragedy as soon as she knows that he knows nothing about Mrs. Sappleton or her family. She tells about the tragedy, that a tragic story. We know that very well how where I mean Mrs. Sappleton's husband and her two brothers with the spaniel dog went for shooting, and they were drowned in the marsh and their bodies were never recovered. Okay, this story we know very well, right? And while telling the story, Vera makes a reference to the window, the open window. Okay, she also tells Mr. Nuttall that that window is kept open because Mrs. Appleton thinks that those three men, along with the dog, may return anytime. So until the dusk, it is kept open in expectation of those three fellows and the dog. And right, okay, so this is the narration of the tragedy. Okay, she gives every detail of the tragic incident that happened in Mrs. Appleton's life. And right, of course, Mrs. Appleton arrives in the middle of the conversation, and she also makes some reference about that shooting and three men and the dog, and she also tells that the window is kept open for their arrival and all these things. And eventually, the arrival of three men with the dog takes place. Three men arrive, and the dog also with them. And we know that after looking at them, after okay, watching those persons walking towards the window, Mr. Nuttall, in a sudden reaction, he makes a rush out of the house without telling any apology or goodbye to Mrs. Sappleton. And when Mr. Sappleton asks when Mr. Sappleton asks Mrs. Sappleton, that means the husband asks the wife, why who is that person, why he ran away, like a okay, I mean sudden fright. So he says, then Vera immediately she weaves a story, or she creates a story that Mr. Nuttall ran out of the house because he is afraid of the dogs. And for that, he tells a story. Once Mr. Nuttall was chased, hunted down into a, I mean, cemetery where he had to spend the night in the newly dug grave, and the dogs snuggling above him on the ground. So from that incident, Mr. Nuttall is very much afraid of the dogs. So this is the story created by this Vera to give a reason for Mr. Nuttall's exit, sudden exit. So you include all these details to write or to make an answer to this question. Okay, students, I hope now you got some idea to write a long answer question. And other probable long answer questions that may be asked from this story. Okay, here are three questions, my dear students, for your reference. The first one is comment on the title of the story, The Open Window. That means why this story is named as The Open Window. So you have to make comments how to write answers. Okay. And the second question, compare and contrast Vera with Frampton Nettle. Okay, so if there are any similarities between these two characters, you write them, and if there are any differences, you write them. Okay, just think about these two characters, and definitely you will create or write an answer for this question. And the third one, how does all the characters contribute in creating fear in Frampton Nuttall? Look at this here. Not only Vera who tells the story and creates a fear in Frampton Nuttall, in some other way, Mrs. Appleton and the three men also are responsible for making him afraid, okay, creating in him fear. So you write all those details as answer for this question. So these are some of the long answer questions, my dear students. Now let us move to the next slide. What is there? Yeah, what did you learn? Okay, from this class so far? Yeah, you learned to identify different types of questions. You learned to identify different types of questions, especially here, one mark question, short answer question, and long answer question. And you are able to write long answers. I hope now you will definitely write answers for any long answer question from this story. Okay, my dear students. Right. Now let us go to the next one. Just a minute. Okay, fine. Reference. The textbook has taken literary perceptions as a reference to okay make this video or make this particular lesson, my dear students. Then let us move to the next one. Multiple choice questions. Fine, learning outcome we knew. Reference also we knew, and multiple choice question number one. Yes. One of the following is an essay type or long answer question. Yeah, this is types of question. This question is on question A. How does Vera contribute in creating tension to Mr. Nuttall? Question B. Who is Vera? Question C. What is Vera's age? And question D. How many brothers does Mrs. Appleton have? Here you have to identify an essay type question. That means long answer question. Right? A, B, C, D. Fine. And the right answer is A. So how does Vera contribute in creating tension to Mr. Nuttall? This is the essay type or long answer question, my dear students. So that's all one more questions. Yes, second question. What horror in the story caused Nuttall's sudden exit? We know that he rushes out of the house uh, immediately after he sees those three men and dog. So what? Oh, okay, fine. Right. The reason for his sudden exit is one dog. B. Arrival of the three men with dog. C. Horrible treatment. And D. Bitter pills, which is the reason for his sudden exit. Yes. And the answer is B. That means arrival of the three men with the dog, my dear students. Okay, right. Question number three. The open window is A or an essay, autobiography, short story, short play. So which is the right answer? It is an or A. Look at the answer. C, that is short story. Yes, this is a short story, you know very well. And the next question, fourth question, which is not one mark question. So here you have to pick the question which is not asked for 1 mark. Yes, write a note on the appropriateness of the title of the story. Write the name of Mrs. Appleton's niece who gave letters of introduction to Nuttall, and how old is Vera? Yes, the answer is not 1 mark question. A, yes, write a note on the appropriateness of the title of the story. Again, this is a short note question, not 1 mark question. Good. Question number 5. Where is it? Yes, Mrs. Appleton is a psychologist. B, Vera's aunt. C, sister of Nuttall. D, all the above? My dear students, the answer is, where is it? Answer B, yes, whereas aunt, Mrs. Appleton is whereas aunt. Okay, my dear students, here ends this multiple choice questions session, and I thank you for listening to or watching this video. Okay, so let us meet in the next class with a different prose or poem or some unit from the workbook. Until then, be safe, my dear students. Okay, right. So you once again go through the short story, you read the short story, and you will understand this story in a better way. Okay, so now let us conclude the session.